in July, no less. I think we have everyone who we're expecting tonight, and we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So we can declare a quorum and call this meeting to order. Let's start with the pledge. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you. And I'm caught out a little bit here without having my agenda open, so bear with me. Do you need that? Okay. All right, so upcoming meetings, we have, we'll be meeting again on August 7th for a business meeting at 6:30. That will be at Pennell in Gray. And that is it for the summer, I believe. First order of business, to consider action relative to additions or adjustments to the agenda. Grant?
I do. I'd like to add a discussion and a suggestion regarding bullying and absenteeism. I've done a little research, and I'd like to add it to the agenda and share with the board and see if the board is willing to start looking into the subject matter. And I'll give you the reasons why. You know, I went through,
Okay.
and I've been on the phone with Augusta and talked to those people too. So I can share that information with everybody.
I'm certainly not opposed to the topic. I think traditionally, though, we like to know in advance so we can share materials with the board ahead of a discussion. So perhaps we could look at adding that to
Well, I'd like to
August is pretty light, I
I
think.
didn't mean to interrupt, but I just let them get started to see if it's worth pursuing. If the board's not interested in it, then I'll just drop it. I'm not looking for action tonight, that type of thing. It's just bringing out some information. Let's see what we can do with it.
Yeah, well, you could make a motion, we can decide to hear it tonight or have you share information, which if it wasn't an emergency would be my preference, as, you know, we do get, people like to have us publish the agenda in advance.
This is not an emergency issue, but according to the rules, this is just to add to the agenda. If it was emergency, then I would have to, you know, add the item as an emergency item, and this certainly isn't. So this is what that line's for.
So make a motion if you'd like.
Just a second, please. So I'd like to add I would like to add information I have received from Augusta regarding bullying and absenteeism, and I can give you sites. I don't have any information to hand out. That's what I have right now. It won't take long. It's not a, you know, commitment or anything like that. It's something to look into. I think it's an exciting idea. It's an idea.
Second on the motion to hear some information on bullying on today's meeting.
Sure, second.
Okay, we need a 2/3 to change the agenda. All in favor?
Thank you.
All right. So let's add that, let's add that where we would have committee report, ahead of committee reports. Because I don't think we'll have any, so that should be fine. All right, any others? Do we have any comments from the audience? All right, and looking for a motion on the minutes from the June meeting.
Move to accept the minutes from June 12th.
Second.
Did anyone find anything? Yes, Adam.
In attendance, we have Cole in there twice.
Adam, could you speak up, please?
In the school board members in attendance, we have Cole in there twice, and I'm not on there. So just where it shows that I voted for something.
Yep. So for tonight's minutes, we want to do an amendment on June 12th that Adam is missing from present, though he was present. I did send an email about that, but Maggie's still on vacation, so we'll ask her to amend that.
Maggie will be back at 7:29 tomorrow.
I made a note.
Any other amendments to those minutes?
My name was spelled Lacadia. I already sent an email just so it will be updated, but where it says
Okay.
where I abstained, it said Lacadia and it ends in an E, so
Okay.
I just thought I would say.
So, thank you, bear with us.
No worries.
So, spelling, correct people in attendance, any content stuff
So move to accept as amended.
as amended? All in favor? All right, great. And on to recognition.
Not much.
Whoops.
The students are in summer session. Most of them are not, so we don't have a lot of things. But there was one. I heard through the grapevine that our local Little League, which is children from Gray, New Gloucester, and some Raymond kids, are doing really well again this year. So I contacted Mr. Stone, who's one of the leaders, and he gave me an update. So Gray, New Gloucester Little League, one of their teams won the district championship and the state championship, and the Little League juniors are currently in Dubois, Pennsylvania, playing in the Eastern Regional. So they have an outside chance of redoing what they did last year. So they're at the regionals in Pennsylvania, it's pronounced Dubois, Pennsylvania.
Awesome.
Putting us on the map.
All right, good luck to them. And let's see, we have no old business. Moving into new business, our favorite reason for gathering in the summer is let's hire some great folks.
Start.
Yes.
I move we appoint Christiana Wavebright to a first probationary contract as a math teacher at the high school.
Second.
So it is my pleasure to introduce Christina, who goes by Valeria. Valeria earned a Bachelor's of Arts degree from Harvard University and a Master's of Arts in Secondary Mathematics from Trevecca Nazarian University in Nashville, Tennessee. For the last 3 years, she's been teaching math at Portland High School, and prior to that, taught secondary mathematics in schools in Tennessee, and also a year in Yarmouth. Her supervisors and colleagues could not say enough wonderful things about Valeria, to include that she's an outstanding educator. We've heard that multiple times. Passionate, creative, enthusiastic, and just a positive leader and mentor for all. So we are very, very excited to have her as part of MSAD 15.
Great. Any questions? Do you know what classes you'll be teaching specifically?
That's still to be
Still up in the air?
determined. Yeah,
You
so
have
we're
time.
we have a little bit of a transition within the math department, so we are moving some things around as we speak. We have this morning.
Awesome, exciting. All right, all in favor? Great, it's official. Welcome.
Congratulations.
Thank you for coming in.
Do we want to move to Liza or?
Yeah, we can do that.
Okay.
We can be flexible.
Okay.
Number 6.
I move we appoint Liza Dimitri to a first probationary contract as a science teacher at the high school.
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded. Go for it.
Perfect. Unfortunately, she is on a family vacation out of state, so not able to be here. But she has a Bachelor's of Science in Environmental Science Management from Indiana University and a Master's of Science in Education from St. Joseph's College. Liza has 7 years of teaching experience for science at both Oxford Hills Middle School and also the high school. In addition, she's worked for the Auburn School Department in multiple positions as a substitute in Ed Tech 3 and also their adult education science teacher. In addition to being, as Craig shared, the Board of Trustees for the Auburn Public Library and also the Vice President of the Lewiston Auburn Children's Foundation, Liza also started a company called 3 Spicy Boys Barbecue Sauce, which she's crafted 8 original recipes, and they are sold within restaurants and stores locally and also throughout the entire U.S. So she was described by her supervisor and colleagues as a hard worker, team player, and just a very caring, wonderful educator. We're excited to have her on board as well.
Great.
Great.
Barbecue sauce is amazing.
Barbecue sauce.
Ooh.
I
can attest.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Is this the full-time position?
Yes,
She's going to do both?
just science, full-time science teacher.
All right, all in favor? Perfect.
Any special requests? Move to appoint Penelope Coward to a first probationary contract as special education teacher resource room at Dunn School.
Second.
Yes, hi. So this is Penny. We are really excited to have Penny join us in our resource room. She's taking Ms. Dazinski's spot. And Penny has a bachelor's degree in elementary education from Franklin College in Indiana, a master's degree from the University of Southern Maine in special education. She's worked in a variety of special education settings, special purpose schools such as the Morrison Center, as well as in public schools, most recently in Gorham and Westbrook, Gorham the most recent, where she was behavior specialist. So taking a step back from behavior for a little while, which is super excited about that. Moving to the resource room setting, which we're really excited about. She brings tremendous expertise, not only in instruction, but also those behavior strategies that she can apply in our resource room. And so we're excited to have Penny, and she's excited to be here. She's already been in, so looking around, checking out the space, eager to get going. So.
Welcome.
Welcome.
Thank you. Any questions? All right, all in favor? All right, thanks, welcome.
Thank you.
Don't be a lot of
Congratulations.
Okay, move to appoint Michelle Gilbert to a first probationary contract as a K-2 school counselor at Memorial School.
All right, Mrs. Hennessy could not be here this evening, as well as Ms. Gilbert, so I have a little bit from Mrs. Hennessy for you. Memorial School is excited to welcome Michelle Gilbert as the new school counselor. Ms. Gilbert has an associate's degree in chemical dependency and a bachelor's degree in human services from Keene State College. Michelle has a master's of science in school counseling from USM. She has worked as a school counselor at RSU 14 since 2013 and has also worked in the same role in SAD 61, which is Lake Region. During the interview process, Ms. Gilbert described a very student-centered approach to school counseling. She also has a large toolkit of strategies to utilize when working with students to grow their skills, and Memorial School is very enthusiastic to welcome Michelle to the team.
All right, sounds good. All in favor?
Move to appoint Caitlin Dixon to a first probationary contract as a math science teacher at the middle school.
Excellent. I'm really proud to introduce Caitlin. Caitlin's coming to us. She spent a couple years in Skowhegan teaching up there. Her references could not say enough good things about her work ethic, about her dedication to teaching. I think that's exemplified in her multiple certification areas that you can see in the list. She really became, as a second-year teacher, the principal said she really became a school leader for them. A lot of other teachers, even ones that had more experience, would go to her with questions, problem solving. exactly the kind of person that, you know, we need and want at the middle school. She is also avid, may not be a good enough word, but compulsive golfer, playing at the college level, works at a golf course, golfs in her free time. And I understand nobody you don't want to golf against her. So.
That's great.
Do you know what team you're going to?
I'm going on Eagle Lake.
Nice.
Yeah, so I'm excited.
Awesome.
Very excited.
All right, any other questions? All in favor? Welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Let's see, where am I? Move to appoint Dawson Smith to the first probationary contract as an ELA social studies teacher, middle school.
Yes. Dawson is coming to us. He spent a year in Sanford. Their unfortunate decision was to use ESSER funds to pay for his position, and then when the ESSER funds ran out, they didn't have another position for him, so we got him, which is going to be really great. Dawson couldn't be here tonight because he's actually working at a summer camp, and he's gone doing an overnight trip with the age group he'll be working with. So really excited. He loves working with the kids. The superintendent at Sanford knew him as a young man and also as a teacher. So didn't have enough good things to say about him in terms of especially his work ethic. He makes sure he gets things right, and when he doesn't get them right, he asks the questions to get there. So again, something really impressive from a young teacher. So we're really excited to have him with us as well.
Questions? All right, all in favor? Perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And so does that conclude their hiring?
Yes.
You're
Introductions.
certainly welcome to stay as long as you want, but it is customary to sneak out, so do not feel obliged. Oh, wait, no. All right, next up, we are looking forward to meeting our new Director of Operations and Finance.
Yes, so we had a lengthy search for a new Director of Operations and Finance. I'd like to introduce Mr. David Pascal.
Oh, welcome.
Hello. Come stand in front of the camera so the folks can see
And all
you.
can see you.
They actually do,
They do watch.
home.
So we had two full interviews with Mr. Pascal and have been very impressed. He began earlier this week with Diane. He comes to us with extensive experience both in accountancy and in project management. And he has undergraduate degree from Northeastern University and a master's degree for the University of Orono. Is that an MBA from Orono?
No, not MBA. Master of Science.
Master of Science. So we're very pleased to have him. He has begun work, and I think he's going to do a really good job for us. He understands projects well. He tends to see the big picture. I think he is able to see our school district from a helicopter approach, and I think he'll be able to do a wonderful job as Director of Operations and Finance. And welcome.
Thank you. I look forward to serving on the administrative team and serving the community.
Congratulations. Thank
Thanks.
you. Glad to have you.
Thank you.
Any questions while we have him on display?
Where'd you come from?
Where did I last work?
Yeah, or like, are you from here?
Yeah, so I live in Westbrook, and my last position was with Tyler Technologies. I was a technical project manager there.
Are you familiar with grant writing?
not grant writing, but from the perspective of software supporting grants.
Fran, did you have a question?
I did. Did you start work yesterday? Did I read that?
I started work Monday.
Monday? Oh, okay. So, okay, I'm off. Okay. And do we have, what's her name working with him? Or-
Diane Bouchard.
Pardon?
Diane.
Diane, thank you.
Yeah, he'll be with Diane all week,
Yeah.
through Friday. He'll be with Diane
For a
through
week.
Friday, yeah.
Okay.
And we also have Diane contracted, I believe, for 20 days during the year. So if something comes up that he needs support around budget season or something that he's never seen before, Diane, we have her as a consultant for 20 days if we need that.
That's awesome.
If.
Yes.
Big if.
Well, welcome. I'm sure you've been sufficiently terrified about the big shoes and all the things, but
There have been moments, yes.
we're very excited to have you.
It's a very supportive team. I'm excited for the opportunity.
It's a great office.
And you wonder how one person has done 5 people's jobs? Yeah.
That bothers me.
Yeah.
Now that you're a CFO.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you, and welcome.
So I told David and John, if you come at 7, that would be fine. So we could wait 6 minutes for Mr. Sushevsky, or we could move on and just go back when he arrives.
Oh, we've made good time. Do we know how much time we would be putting into the approving the LAU plan? Is that,
6 minutes?
Perfect.
So do that next.
yeah.
If everyone read the LAU plan, then it shouldn't take too long. It's a compliance project that we have to do every 3 years to make sure we're in compliance with the Civil Rights Act regarding English language learners.
Okay, well, why don't we tackle that and then we'll just circle back.
I move we approve the district's LAU plan.
Second.
Okay, and any discussion, or do you, I know it's in your report, but do you want to talk about it for
So-
the audience at home?
Yeah, so the LAU plan is part of the 1964, it's an amendment to the 1964 Civil Rights Act. And what is derived from is that English language, students that aren't familiar with the English language receive English language services. And so we demonstrate through our LAU plan, LAU was an actual person who someone filed a suit on their behalf. So what that requires us to do is to demonstrate that students whose language is not, English is not their first language, that we have a plan for those students. So we have, based on our English language learners, we have 56 kids in this school district that receive English language services. Some are very minimal, just a ongoing oversight, and then there's some that have significant and everything in between. And so our LAU plan ensures that we are able to identify students who may need those services, assess to what degree they need the services, and then provide those services, and then exit those students when they can or should be exited from those services.
Are there any significant changes to the plan this year, or is it?
The only significant plan difference is not the plan itself, but that our services, last year we added another teacher because the number of students requiring those services has increased significantly over the last 5 years and is projected to increase into the future. We have more students. Profile of our students was typically bilingual home, English and French was spoken, let's say. Now we're having more and more students who are coming to us where They know no English or very, very little English. And so now we have 2 teachers to provide those services.
Great. Questions? All right, all in favor? Okay. So, that didn't take 6 minutes, so let's just press on and we'll circle back whenever they arrive. Next up is to appoint a delegate to the Maine School Board Association, a delegate assembly, and an alternate. This assembly takes place on Zoom, October 19th at 9:30 a.m. So our delegate would need to be available at that time.
That's a Saturday,
That's a Saturday.
I believe.
That is Saturday.
I've done it the last 2 years.
Yes. Would you like
I'm
to?
happy to do it again. It's
Oh,
one,
that was
it's
so
one of the
easy.
most tedious days you can ever spend. But
Boy, you're really selling that.
I'm not trying to sell it. I don't want to sell it and have somebody go, what the hell?
Do you want to explain a little bit?
It's a lot of discussion about the work of the Maine School Board Association for next year. They have all their resolutions. And there's discussion about, endless sometimes discussion about some of them that feel like they should be a little more self-evident than they are. And it can be a tedious time. It's important work. I mean, it sets the agenda, a lot of the agenda for the Maine School Board Association. So I don't want to make too light of it, but it's usually 3 to 4 hours on Zoom. So it is what it is.
And then our delegate would vote at that?
Yes, I vote on your behalf for
On
their
that.
things. So prior to that meeting, we will get a list of what their proposed resolutions are, what they're supporting for next year, and we can have a conversation about it. And I can be instructed, or whoever does it can be instructed as to how, what your wishes are, as our wishes are.
Does anyone want to challenge Gary for this honor on,
Challenge, go ahead.
All yours.
Okay, anyone on the, and then we need an alternate, should something befall our primary delegates.
I'll volunteer as alternate.
Oh, thank you.
That
All
needs
right.
to be recorded and provided to the state, so that they send us the correct emails to prepare us for it.
Okay.
There's usually a practice session, believe it or not, it's a short practice session where they talk about the voting, because you have to vote on them, and there's an app that they use for voting. So there's a little practice session to show you how the app works, and get you prepared for your vote.
So Craig, can we make a note for Maggie that to let them know our delegates, our delegate is Gary, our alternate, Sharon, so they can be in touch.
Yeah, we have an actual form, and we put your name, phone number, email address to contact you. And Gary's correct, it is kind of tedious, but it is important, because when the legislature comes in session and they're making a budget or they're making a law that affects schools, when the Maine School Boards Association testifies before the legislature, they will say the delegate assembly has voted, you know, in strong opposition to such and such a legislation, or in strong favor of such and such a legislation. And so it does have some bearing in governance at the state level.
The tedious part is not the work. The tedious part is having 120 people from all over the state representing all school boards, a good percentage of which, I swear, have never done a Zoom call before. And last year, coming right out of COVID, where everyone did Zoom, you'd think there'd be fairly deep knowledge, but it was kind of painful at times. Connecting and reconnecting and audio up, down, sideways. Anyway, but the material is important.
I'm looking forward to it.
Sounds fun.
Let's hope Gary's healthy.
It's I don't know, I'm making fun, but it's actually pretty fun. It's important stuff.
Do I volunteer as tribute? I'm just.
There you go. That's right.
All right, great. And I'll note that the second, the clock struck 7. John appeared, and so we have learned he's incredibly timely already before we've even met him. So shall we skip back to that part in our agenda and meet our new transportation supervisor?
Yes. Let me get my notes. John Suszewski.
John,
It's
you
close,
wanna?
it's close.
Close, I'm getting better.
Is it-
Sugareski.
Sugareski.
Okay,
Oh, that wasn't close
It's
at
pronounced
all.
just the
wasn't
way it
close.
looks, right?
Yeah.
yeah, actually. Okay.
So again, we had an
Find your way in front of the
extensive,
camera.
Need the public people to see you.
Home wanna see
There
it.
you go. Not so comfortable.
so we had a good search committee with Jeff and who else was with us?
KJ.
Oh, and KJ. And gave a wonderful interview and came for a visit and did a second interview. And we couldn't be happier. He's been working since July 1st?
Yep.
Yeah. And so he's spent 7 years as superintendent of buildings, grounds, and transportation at Willsboro Central School District in upstate New York. He has roughly 25 years of experience in excavation, product management, and facilities management. He's a graduate of Southern Maine Technical College. He's dating himself when he says that. Southern Maine Community College, where he studied construction and technology. And I think what impressed me the most with John, and Jeff, you can disagree if you want, he understands the totality of organizational management, working with people, managing people, the totality of the systems of budgeting, how many tires are we going to need, what's the age of the tires, gee, the mechanic's sick, I'll get the wrench and fix it myself. Just a very what needs to be done to get those buses on the road on time, people trained, buses inspected. I just felt he was very much a organizational leader and manager. And do you have anything to add, Jeff?
No, I just think his experience, he's been in the role before in the district in upstate New York, understands all facets of the transportation department. It's actually going to be a little bit less work for him maybe in some ways because he doesn't have facilities anymore, which he did in his previous district. But I just think his experience is going to be tremendous, and he hit the ground running right from July 1st and dug into the department and has learned a lot about it already. I think things are going well. He's already made some changes that are going to be really beneficial for us. So, yeah.
Is this a return to Maine for you, or was New York in the past?
So, when I was very young, I lived in Kittery because my father was in the Marine Corps and he worked at the Naval Base.
Yep.
So we were there for a few years. My brother was born at Pease Air Force Base, and then we were shipped to North Carolina. But originally I'm from Vermont, southern Vermont, a town called Wilmington. It's right in the heart of the Green Mountains, ski country, and that's where my father owned an excavation company for 25 years. And and then from there I moved to Castleton, Vermont, and I lived there for 7 years. And then I took a position in Willsboro, New York, for a big mineral company. And from there, I ended up taking the position for superintendent of buildings and grounds and transportation. And we were there for 10 years. And we were always trying to get back to New England. And we've always vacationed in Maine every summer for 10 days usually. And we kind of would hit the ground here and kind of spread out a little bit every year and get a little taste of the different areas and everything. And so we had decided a few years ago that if everything worked out, we'd like to move our family here. You know, we just really like Maine and the people that we met, and it seems like there's a lot more opportunity here for my children, and there definitely was for myself and my wife as far as jobs are concerned. So if
finally came together this spring, and I did some research. I found the opening here, and you know, and it's been a wonderful experience so far. It really has. Everyone that I've met in the school district has been very welcoming and very helpful, and it seems like I haven't met anyone who dislikes their job here. Everybody seems to have a smile on their face, and it's just it's a fresh thing. It's nice to see, you know, nobody's complaining about their job or where they live. People really like to be here, so that's a great thing.
Good, we'll put you in our next commercial. Well, looks like we were lucky to find you as well, so very excited to have you, and, well.
Welcome.
Good, thank you very much. Thank you for the opportunity. I really appreciate
Absolutely.
it. Thank you.
All right, and you missed the prior group, us saying, we love meeting you, but you are under no pressure to stay and sit through the rest of the meeting.
Oh, thank you.
So, you're free.
Feel free to
My son will
skedaddle.
appreciate that, 'cause he's in the car.
Oh, there you go.
Please go.
Unless you have a reason to stay, you can run away.
Okay. Let's go. All right, getting back on the agenda, we are looking to revise one of our support position job descriptions to incorporate the cybersecurity duties approved by the board.
So I think the job description is in your packet. Normally I'd run this through the personnel committee first, but we didn't. Technically there is no personnel committee right now. But essentially as you went through the board process last year, there was funding for cybersecurity. The Director of Technology felt that we're really vulnerable in terms of cybersecurity. Our servers, our student data, all the data that we are responsible for keeping secure electronically. And then also from outside attacks like ransomware or some of the truly nasty things you see on TV about organizations and schools being attacked with cybersecurity. So what we did was the funding was about 1/3 of a job. So instead of creating 1/3 of a job, we took one of the existing tech support assistant jobs and rewrote the job description. So part of the job description is the same old tech assistants, but about half their day, 40% of their day will be exclusively the cybersecurity piece. And so essentially this is the redefinition of one of those jobs that already exists.
Is that job currently filled, or is this a?
Yes, we're not bringing in a new person. We
have someone on staff to.
Yes, it's Casey, and she happens to be pursuing a degree, a graduate degree in cybersecurity. So she's very well suited for the position.
My only question, I remember this coming up, I just can't remember all the details of it. So it's going to a current position. Is this a stipend piece?
No, it's going to be the job. About 40% of the job will be cybersecurity, and then 60% of the job will be the technology assistance that she currently does.
Okay, but when we budgeted for this, did we budget for a higher pay because we're adding this on, or is this just an extra task that's getting?
It's being blended in, and it is at a higher level of pay. Can you fill in any holes I left?
So yeah, it was budgeted at, like we had put it into. So yeah, we had put it into the budget. It was part of our list of increases critical to meeting our vision and mission statement. Actually, it came about during my first board meeting when we talked about the influx of tools that we had for monitoring our cybersecurity and my inability to keep up with all the traffic of that. So I kind of tried to formulate this position to account for that. And that's why it was brought into the budget and ultimately.
So the person's being compensated for it?
Oh, yes.
Okay, just want to make sure
Yeah.
we're,
For the,
okay.
for the special.
Yeah.
All right.
Good.
Any other questions? Yeah, so this is we're gonna vote, we need to vote on this, right?
Yeah,
We
because
don't
it's a
have
change in
personnel.
job description.
Okay.
Move to revise one of the technical support position job descriptions to incorporate the cybersecurity duties approved by the board.
Second.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Great. We've been hearing about that as a priority and a potential weakness, so it's exciting to have that filled. All right, now moving into my report on the 2 public bond project meetings. From my own knowledge, did everybody here in attendance tonight make it to one of those or the bond committee meeting? One of the 3 times that we showed the plans?
Yes.
So we've all seen them?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Not trying to short circuit our discussion, but it's helpful to know that we all saw the same materials. So I haven't, so we had the 2 meetings last Thursday here at the high school. We couldn't have ordered more perfect conditions to illustrate our lack of public gathering space. It was, I think, pushing 100 degrees in there. My watch actually set off an alarm that my heart rate was too high for what I was doing.
Yikes.
So we had a really good turnout for that, particularly given the weather. I really do want to thank members of the public who have attended, who have followed along online, who have been reaching out with emails. This is not an easy time of year to ask people to dig in and do hard thinking work on July evening. So we had probably a similar sized group on Monday night in Memorial. The weather was more pleasant there, but the sound equipment was trickier, but we got through it. So you saw the material where we heard from the HVAC project, the brick and mortar proposals in the athletic fields, as well as our history of borrowing, and some of the early numbers on, broadly speaking, what this is going to look like. I do think that is an area that that I want us to spend some time talking about tonight, because those numbers, in terms of, well, there's still quite a bit of work to do in terms of how would we pay for that? Do we phase it? Do we put in our own capital investment? What did the rates look like? So that very sort of big working number is far from, fully fleshed out. The questions and comments, because not everybody came to all the meetings, I am working on editing those into a usable format. I just wanted to check a few of the facts. I did it as I was going, so when someone said, can you repeat the HVAC numbers? I quickly wrote them in, but I want to make sure that I wrote in the right ones before we go publishing it online and I've mistakenly changed the, numbers of our bond. But that should be ready hopefully tomorrow morning. I can share it around. We can find a public place to house it with our bond materials, and we can keep that a working document and keep adding to that, and maybe start, I'd like to start looking at things in themes. Thematically, what I heard a lot of, turf is a extremely hot button. The feelings are pretty polarized, and we do have a lot of folks bringing their own research or their own experience or their own thoughts. I think that is something we want to talk about. How do we handle that, and what kind of information do we want to adopt as what we believe are the relevant truths about the current use of turf, and what the district feels about incorporating it. I heard concern about the cost. We heard strong support for the HVAC being standalone, which we already plan on doing. We also heard strong support for having the referendum be in November with the bigger election, which reminds me, we did, Craig and I did meet with town clerks. I think at the end of this portion, we probably do want to hopefully take action on a date. We had previously voted to do a referendum in September. We have said we'll keep doing the next right thing. It really sounds like the next right thing is to move that to November. The town's made a very compelling list for Craig and I about what really goes into preparing a referendum, and it's significant. I mean, it would be a massive burden on them, and that was not our intention. So that we heard questions about, are we, is this everything? Is there anything else hanging out there? Are we eligible for any state funding? Will these facilities be accessible? Was a big one, which I think is important that we continue to talk about. That's not our intention, to get the district what they need, and then invite the plan is to have these things be in use 7 days a week. So those were the big themes. And then, themes of people just being in support of the project and people being worried about taxes. Does anybody else, Adam, you were at both. Are there any other big themes?
That seemed to be a lot of it. A lot of folks seem to indicate if we were to pursue the larger bond potential of breaking out pieces and or breaking out the turf as like a standalone portion, which we had talked about. I think it was a good representation that this was not for next year, it's for the next 30 years. And it was good that we had talked about we're building it or presenting it in a way that it's not going to be shiny new and we're going to not use it because it's shiny and new. I think we did a good job presentation-wise. There was a little bit of confusion that we were kind of getting about the HVAC numbers from Gray. That final piece that we had to finance, I think the two guys, I think they didn't present that part so everyone knew, so it kind of, when we then said, well, it's like $9 million, not 6, you saw like a bunch of people, but it went much, everybody got the message, I would say, in New Gloucester, so that was good. No, I think we're doing the right thing. I don't think there was nobody there that thought that this board doesn't care about needs of students and this is just like for the board's sake. Didn't seem to be in any question, which is good. I think if a current student that would show that the community is at least looking to invest in them, and like being in what we have is good, becoming's better, and that's always the goal. It definitely, I think, should give a shout out to our facilities, because we're double the expected life of, I mean, that someone's got to be taking care of something for it to double its lifespan, and that's good on them. It's good.
Have we had a turf expert come into any of our meetings? Have you had any of that, any of the bond meetings? Somebody that can give us like up-to-date like facts on the improved, like improvements they made over the years on improving turf and what the actual numbers look like, and is it, because I heard a lot of comments about how dangerous it is and concussions and all that, but has there been anybody come in to give a report to any of the bond meetings about?
Activitas is a professional sports facility designer and equipper.
Okay.
That
So they
is
know
what
turf.
they do. They did it for Yarmouth.
Okay.
They've done it for multiple colleges in the state. We're not their first client. They're a big deal in Yarmouth.
So they know turf.
We went to them because they were an expert in sports facility design.
And they will come in, we haven't asked them to yet, because this is what this is actually a perfect example, because we need to make some decisions like tonight as a board as to what we're gonna move forward with. And so there's a balancing act on how much we put out or ask for information on until we agree on what we want to focus on. So, for example, if we say we agree, let's move forward with a question that includes the turf field, Activitas would come in, they have offered to do meetings specifically on turf. They'll come in and just do a night about turf. Because these meetings we've had so far are putting an enormous amount of information into 2 hours. So it's very, very broad strokes. But that will be something that we would need to add a ton more information on. Information on how the HVAC the loan structure would work. All of these things have to be really drilled down on between now and what we bring to referendum.
One of the comments was, well, I understand this. One of the women that stood up and had a comment said, I understand that there are some, cons, but there's a lot more pros, and that these are experts. It's scientifically changed over the years and has improved, and we do have 9 fields, so it's not like that's the only recourse. And then having a turf would allow, more income and, state championship games and things like that, where we can't house those now. But having that field would allow us to do more, a lot more.
And there are multiple kinds of, there's the expense there too, like South Portland just put in one that has this like wood base and this fully recycled, so you can also look, and then those all come with a price tag, right? So those are the pieces of, we have to decide which ones to pursue, or do we leave some of these to the voters? Craig, did you have?
Yeah, so the turf took a disproportionate amount of time to discuss. And people showed up, they had there was one student that had his research, and to what degree he followed APA format and did a thorough compare and contrast. It's funny, all the research he found was against it. And so people are very, there's a litmus test here. If you get 10 people that are opposed to turf, you can come with all the published papers and all the scientists you want. You're not going to change their mind. And the same is true of the other side. So, that's just a thing, and it's been a thing in every district that has brought in turf. The cost has been demonstrated to us a lot. It's not cheap, but over time, it's 10 to 15% less expensive, in addition to children get out on the field in April as opposed to Yeah, July 4th.
Yeah, and we stopped letting them throw baseballs inside the gym.
So that's a difficult piece that we'll overcome, is the turf thing, is how do we put a bond for if we know that people are going to disagree on one specific aspect of this major project, and are people willing to vote? Yeah, there's 48 components to this project, but I'm voting against it because I'm so passionate about this one item. So that's a political calculation that we can't solve tonight.
Right.
I don't think.
Yeah, well, we might, Sharon and then Paul.
Well, I was just gonna say, I didn't go to the New Gloucester meeting, so I missed this conversation or discussion that happened. But I know at the last bond meeting where they showed us sort of the drawings, they talked about the turf and they went over some of the pros and cons. And one of the big pros to it is that it can handle it can handle enough hours to essentially bring the rest of the fields back into their normal wear and tear schedule. Whereas if it's all grass, that's going to get harder and harder again. And there is a cost to seeding and maintaining and irrigation. So, but one turf field, I was amazed at the hours it saved from all the other fields.
Yeah, I was actually going to say kind of the same thing, but I think at this point I feel as though we're a little bit behind the 8 ball on it, because I think we all knew early out of the gate this was going to be a huge point of contention with the bond. I think we all recognized that fairly early on. So I know that we've had it kind of at the bond committee level. We haven't really brought it out to the public, and I think that since we know it's going to be such a contention piece, we may have wanted to bring it out there earlier. But I guess it is what it is at this point. I think the only thing that we can do moving forward is present the opportunities for the public to hear that with the presentations. And because there's two big components to it, right? We've got the safety piece and we've got the cost piece. Those are the two things that mostly revolve around that topic. So I think we can do what we can between now and the vote to bring that forward as far as information to the public. But also, we've already talked about a little bit about piecing this out on different questions. And I definitely think that that is something that we are going to have to do. I think obviously the HVAC system needs to be pieced out of this, as well as the turf piece needs to, because I think it is such a big point of contention that you're right. I think people may go to the vote or and maybe vote it down for improper reasons because they don't agree with it, because they don't know much about it. But I'd really hate to see the whole bond fail just because of that mindset. So I think by separating it out, we be a little bit more fair.
Yep. Sorry, I wasn't paying attention to the order. I saw Lauren.
I'm just wondering if we did not put in the turf field, but 10 years later, there's an appetite for it. Is there anything that we would still need to tweak in the design from installing a traditional versus now? So if we don't go ahead with it, it's still not going to preclude a major effort other than installing the turf field itself.
Right, the grass, that field, the design wouldn't change.
The size is the same,
Nothing
all
would
of
change.
that.
We would just make it grass, and then in the future, that would not stop. I mean, that would be an expense, of course.
And it's gonna be more.
That's
It'd be
what
more
I'm trying to
expensive,
avoid,
right.
because it'd be more.
Yep.
But yes, and the same, there's nothing to say you couldn't put the turf field in 10 years when it's about 10 to 12 years when it's looking to be replaced. If the district decided it didn't meet the needs or we didn't like it, instead of replacing the carpet, you could pull it out and put grass. So it's all about, interchangeable, but nothing's free, right? So there's that piece. Fran?
Yes, so I think those are options we should be laying out. What, we need to look at, what if we put it all as one package? What if we break it up? And then If we break it up, should we have it with the turf or should we not have it with the turf? We have to look at all those options and then see what we can toss up and conclude, you know, when we're all done with it. Now, because I hadn't thought at that point. I don't think I heard that at the meetings, but maybe it was said. I think that, as I stated at the Gloucester meeting, I don't have a handle on these numbers. And basically, I mean, I have the numbers in front of me, but in the gym for $12 million, what does that consist of, you know? I'd like to see what that looks like. So Sam has said he'd have those figures here tonight, but evidently he's not here, so we don't have the numbers. Is that correct? He didn't give them to you, right?
Which ones?
For the breakouts, you know, what I had asked, he had stated at the meeting he would have numbers for us.
I have, let me see what I have. I have some breakout, a little more, I think it would be good to have in front of us, so bear with me actually, and let me put my hands on that. It is the slide that they showed with the big numbers, but it had more
Broken
granularity.
down, yeah.
Do you know the one I'm looking for?
Yeah, it looks like an invoice, actually.
Did it have like 12 million for the gym, 15 million?
Yeah,
for
it
the
broke it
athletic
down
fields?
into...
No, I have all that.
Okay.
No, I saw that, and I wrote those numbers. Those are numbers. What do they consist of, I guess is what I'm looking at. Like in the gym, how many bleachers are we gonna have versus, you know, how much it is for the cost of the floor itself? You know, just to get a handle on the project, I think,
Well-
I personally need that kind of handle.
We're not, I mean, we know what that
Roughly. It's all rough.
includes. Right, we know that what we've seen is they're estimating. They're doing cost estimation on, you know, the gym that they showed the picture of, the Brewer gym. They're saying like, it would look like this. It would have, you know, the polished wood floor and this bleachers for 750. And because they, you know, they can plug these things, you know, formulaically in and give us a number.
But they have that. That's my point, and that was just a spreadsheet that I guess I'm looking for.
Okay,
Yeah,
so,
that was basically
Yeah.
what I'm looking at here. Okay,
But
but I have
that-
all the numbers. I didn't want to belabor it. I just
yeah,
wanted to.
the big ones are what we have.
Maybe I'm the only one on the board who doesn't have a handle on this, and so, but you know,
No, I know what you're saying, Fran. I think it's really tricky because what we're asking for, we're trying to, I see you, Adam, one sec. No, I just want you to hold your hand up. What we've paid quite a bit of money, so it took me a while to learn this too, is we're getting to this sweet spot of generally what would be a safe amount of money to assume a project of this scope would cost. There's a point at which we just have to get the voters' approval before we spend another dollar.
Mhm.
So a lot of that, you know, that 5 million that was design and fees and, you know, that's really that detail that hasn't been done yet because we don't want to pay for that detail if we're not going to approve the project. I looked at a drawing once early, Fran, and I wanted a door somewhere else and I was having fit about it, you know, and Mike had to be like, Penny, that room probably won't even be there in the final, you know, like this is a starting point to get a good handle on what this project would cost, you know, before we spend literally $1 million on these details.
yeah, I wasn't looking to spend money. I was looking
Well, that's
to boost the
Right.
the numbers, or you know, give them a little more detail that's already
Yeah.
there.
That's the trick. Although I do know that the finish, the level, you know, we have been going at it over and over again. Durable, nice quality, not fancy. You know, we are looking to let the kids have at it and have it stand, and we're not looking for the Taj Mahal. We're looking for something we can take good care of for 50 years. Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty much what I was gonna say. So like when we've, like you asked if there were like gold faucets in the, and
that was
I
a
get
for
it,
example.
but like,
That wasn't my
that's pretty much
intention.
what I was gonna, I've tried and tried on construction projects to do that, and until it's like contract signed, and then you do the bid, and then you have 70 bid packages come in, and it's like, well, what fixtures did you use? Like, well, these are better and they're the same price. Why? And like that negotiation part that you're looking for is like after the money.
I'm going to retract that statement.
Oh, no,
Because that was just something off the top of my head. I think tonight I explained what I was looking for.
Gold's
I'm not
out.
looking for that detail. I know that's going to cost money.
Wrong,
I'm looking for something different.
Gold's back.
And that was, and I admit, that was a dumb statement.
No, I
mean,
just-
and,
but-
you know.
But we got your point, for sure. It was, the
Yeah.
point was
Well,
made.
yeah, okay, good.
It's if one thing as a holistic look on this is everybody here also represents pieces of our community. So I think you have a handle on the numbers, but you may represent a subset of people that do not. And that's also people that, if this went through, are going to pay for it. So I think we can and / should honor as much information finding as we can. At least it's out there, and whatever they decide, we decide, everyone decides is what we decide. But at least it wasn't like, well, if I'd have known. So I think we should keep that in mind too.
I just want, something that Sam was referencing about the detail, I think is the document that the architects are going to provide, the link to the document on the state site that shows, because this is a school through the DOE, there's a very limited number of choices they actually have for things like fixtures, like faucets. And that document will show the options within which they have to choose ultimately. It's not like building your home where you get a full, you can pick anything in the world.
Right.
The state says to be funded, here's what you can choose from, and that's exterior surfaces, carpets, all this furniture you're sitting at.
Feel like 5
is all
options.
approved, and it's on a list somewhere as an approved source. So I think that was what he was referring to, is that doc could be made available. So you could poke around and say, okay, so there are, this is what they're looking at for sinks and faucets and stoves and whatever. Because any more actual selection detail, we're not ready to pay for yet. We've spent as much as we can.
Right.
And they've done all the work they can for that money. And now we're at this point of, we're either gonna spend more out of pocket and maybe fail and have spent it anyway, or we're gonna get it passed at referendum and know that we have the money and then we'll go for it. Then I also want to talk about turf. I think it'd be great if we could have a turf session sometime between now and the vote with the turf expert, only because when I sit in these meetings, and I wasn't at the one in Gray, but I watched it on Zoom, and I was at New Gloucester, everyone comes with their own research. And that, we have no idea when that research was.
Exactly.
And we had a citizen at New Gloucester who's talked about Cumberland is spending $3 million on turf. So therefore, our number must be wrong. Our number says $900,000. Well, they're spending $3 million. And she repeated that and repeated that and repeated that. And it's maybe they're spending too much over in Cumberland.
Yeah.
Maybe they should have used our architects. I don't know. All I'm saying is everyone is coming with their own research, and we don't know what era that came from. 15 years ago, when we started this process, 10 years ago, 2014. The year we started it, there was a big deal in college sports about women soccer goalies at the college level having problems with cancer. That's a pretty specific group of people. You haven't heard anything about that since, because they changed. The technology changed, lots of stuff has changed. However, that research is still out there, and if that's what somebody wants to come and quote, we're going to hear it. So I'd like to have somebody come with the current choices, current research, current practice, because there are turf fields going in all around us.
Yep. They're huge.
No one is building a grass field, ever, again. Lewiston did all their fields in turf. Sanford put in turf, Bath put in turf. I'm not talking about the coastal communities with lots of money. Sanford put one in. So there has to be a benefit beyond just thinking that it's kind of cool to have turf.
All these schools wouldn't be doing it if it wasn't the right thing to do.
And we're only doing
Well, I
that.
think they're all doing it I think we're all looking at it for the same reasons. The schools I've also mentioned have got limited real estate footprints. And they're trying to maximize the amount of time their kids have on the fields. One of the things we heard from the community too, I'm sorry, if I'm rambling too much, just cut me off.
Carry on.
The other thing we heard is the community wants to use our facilities, and right now we can't let them. There was talk about the Performing Arts Center. We can't let them use the Performing Arts Center we have now because janitors can only set up the lunch tables just so many times a week. So the new one would accommodate that. But the turf field is what lets us bring more people onto our campus in bigger numbers with bigger use. Because without the turf, if that stays grass, then we have the same number of fields, but made better, improved, dressed up, resodded, but the same number of fields, same number of square feet as we have now. Which means 2 years from now, we're going to be in the same situation. They're going to be worn out again. We get a drought season or an excessively wet season, and all of a sudden we're where we are now, where we're telling the community, no, you can't come on. You can't hold your tournament. And then we're going to hear, well, you said it's going to be open to the public. Yes.
If we did turf.
But, and I don't want to make it sound like turf is dependent on
No,
turf. And the other part is if we take turf out, nobody's talking about the cost of redoing that grass field and then maintaining it at a performance level, which means limiting traffic, limiting use, way more attention than we're paying now. So I just think there's some numbers in there that just eliminating turf doesn't necessarily solve the question.
I agree with the presentation, that's why I brought it up.
So I just think we need an in-depth presentation with all the options, and that estimate may change. We may go to $1.5 million instead of 900,000 because we want, coconut husk infill. I don't know, which is one of the ones they use.
What about Charmin?
I don't know. So anyway, that's my.
Do we need to take a vote about bringing in having a thing, or do we just do it, or how's that work?
No, but I'm thinking, I'm mumbling to myself, thinking what this very next step is. We actually do need to I want to have a robust discussion because we're the group who need to buy into the thing to even move it forward, but we also need to, I don't want to get caught in debating too much because we do have to decide what we're going to put in front of folks, and then we use the time between now and then to educate and see that we can, get folks to understand the position. So one of the things we do need to vote on is do we want to move the referendum to November?
I'm sorry?
Move to November. So we need to.
We're going to take a vote on that now?
We need to take a vote on that.
Oh, we got a motion.
Right, in general, things we can cover. And then we have to decide how to break it up, because, so some additional information, when we met with the people at both town clerks and town managers, and they were, if they're watching tonight, incredibly tolerant of my devil's advocacy as we really pushed through what is best, and I am fully on board. It is my opinion that November is the most appropriate, and said we would, support that tonight. But a follow-up question was, okay, when do you need the wording from us to make sure we have absentee ballots, to make sure that, the work can be done? And that drop-dead date is August 15th for a November referendum, because they're printing, they have to get things out to absentee voters. So we meet again on August 7th. So what I would like to do tonight is to have us decide generally how do we think we would like to see this, because we can then task Craig and the admin team with saying, okay, we need a really solid suggestion on what's a good number that we would put forth from our own capital. What kind of numbers can we get from a bond? Because we have to, on August 7th, we would need to approve that wording. That would be go time. So if we say tonight, hey Craig, we'd love to see a question on HVAC, full bond. When I say bond, I mean, facilities project, and turf as a standalone, or whatever it is that we decide, then the admin team can use between now and then to really show us what that would look like, and we could give a final go-ahead on August 7th, get it to the town so they could do their work, and then we can be on the November referendum. So that's the things we're looking at needing to accomplish here. And there was a lot of folks at previous meetings who were extremely passionate about not breaking these projects up and not pitting our different groups against each other. And then there were some folks more recently showing up saying, well, maybe you should break this up and give people options. I think what we would also need to make clear is that these numbers we have are the most, I know it's a big number, but it is still the most economical way forward because of doing them together, the permits, the design, the engineering, those things are assumed that go as a big project. If we say we want to put auditorium, gym, fields on the ballot, those numbers we have are not. They do, those fees, administration, those do not break down into thirds. They would break down and then go up because you're not doing a big project. So I fear that by doing that, we're putting something more expensive in front of the community without giving them a chance to say, yes, we want everything in here or we don't, with the turf circular though. So those are the two things we have to make formal tonight, or at least make formal the November date, and then what do we want to ask to be brought to us for draft language, because there is phasing that could be done. That big picture money thing that Sam showed is the worst case scenario. It doesn't consider us using any of our own money, it doesn't consider phasing, it doesn't consider timing. Fran?
In light of that, we have not, as far as I know, discussed about the additional staffers we're going to have, janitors, that type of thing. That'll be in our operation budget, I assume. That's where that will be. But that still will not be an increase into our operational budget. So do we have a handle on how much jobs will be generated from this project? And because that's a pretty big change too.
Yeah, I don't know that we anticipate a major staffing change. Craig, do you have thoughts on what that would look like? I mean,
We have that number, the people per square foot.
What's the formula? There's a formula.
There's a formula for people per square foot for an interior building and people per square foot for grounds. And we have those numbers, and we use those numbers currently for our existing personnel, for our custodial staff and for our grounds. And there is a specific formula for the turf piece. And so to get back to Gary's point, and I think I made the point earlier, when people come to the microphone waving how much the turf costs, we know what it costs, we know how many people it takes, we know that it's about 15% cheaper, and that's what it costs. So is it more expensive or less expensive? We have the data, and we have the charts, and we have the research that shows if you have a grass field, it takes this many manpower hours to maintain the field, and this is what it costs for that manpower hour, and for that watering, and for that aeration, and for that fertilization. If you have a turf field, we have the exact numbers of what it costs to put it in, what it costs to maintain it, how many manpower hours to maintain it, and consistently they've shown that turf is about 15% less expensive in terms of manpower hours and expense. So it's not a panacea of being cheaper, but we do kind of know the prices, and we know how many people it takes to do that work. The square footprint for the building, we could get a firm number on that, and the same thing with the addition to the fields. What would that cost?
But the first hire we would have for any of this stuff is about 4 years out.
Correct.
If we vote in November, if it's positive in November, we're really looking at least 3, if not 4 years out before we hire anybody.
Yeah. So when I left RSU 10 in 2016,
they had just got approval to do a study. Then they did the study, then they put it to bond. They're in the middle of construction right now, so it can take time. Well, COVID set them back 2 years. But it gets to the point of if the bond passes November 2024, it might not be till 2026 that you're actually
Potentially adding a janitor.
correct.
Right.
One janitor?
No, I'm saying,
No, they're just saying
we don't
potentially,
know.
they don't know.
Potentially, should we add a janitor in this all in forward, it would still be probably 3 to 4 years before we would even add that person, because none of this exists yet.
But, so, I would like to see those numbers, not necessarily the cost, because
Right.
who knows what it's going to be in
Right.
4
Right.
years for a full-time position. But just how many positions does this add to the current staff?
Just on my back of the envelope, having lead buildings and lead districts, I think it would be reasonable to say, just as a ballpark placeholder, at a certain point, 3 or 4 years from now, you'd have to have 1.5 people to do the extra indoors and the extra outdoors.
And you also would have to have, I can't imagine it would be a full-time job, but there's no way you're doing a real auditorium with equipment and don't have, someone on staff owns that technology pieces, unless we can keep Cam forever.
And in our discussion here, I guess there's been a room, online, people have been telling me that there's discussion about, that the auditorium's gonna be a moneymaker. And it was announced, at the Gloucester meeting. And I'm not sure that the board has dealt with that issue at all, where that information came from to begin with, but shouldn't there be a statement made? Because that's, misleading.
But-
The people have it in their mind, I don't know where it came from or anything, but
But
they have it in.
here's the thing, Fran.
Okay.
I am not policing Facebook. It is an absolute nightmare, and this is our official meeting, and we said it on Monday, and I will say it again. In no way is this project, this is not gonna be a moneymaker. We do not wanna make it hard for people to use it. We want that to be a barrier, and having a local theater pay $5,000 to use the space that cost $15 million to build, we're not gonna pay for it with that. No, so where it came from, it didn't come from this body, and so from there.
I think you just addressed it.
Yeah.
It's on now, it's
Right.
from the board, and that's what we needed to do,
Right.
is to quell that
Yeah, and
rumor.
as Sam said, I thought it was smart, we don't wanna make people pay for this twice.
Right.
I'm not gonna ask you to pay for your taxes and then say it's inaccessible to use. I mean, this is a community, we are different, and people say, well, we don't wanna be, this town and that town. I think we do wanna be G&G, and that G&G is somewhere where you can come see a show for $5. You can come to the basketball game. I don't want that to change. This is central to our community. So I think that's the story.
So there's 2 points I want to make. I'd like to put it out there that I used to be very much involved in Facebook. I went away from it because I became very uncomfortable as a private citizen. I'm going to tell you right now, we have no business conducting business on Facebook.
Yeah, nobody is. I don't
We
think. Yeah.
have 325 employees, 1,850 students, 1,300 residents, and an 11-member school board. We conduct our business on our school website, on our minutes, on our film. I have people saying, well, why aren't you posting that meeting here? Why aren't you posting that meeting here? Because I post on MSAD 75 letterhead on MSAD 15. And I strongly urge you, if you're conducting business on Facebook, directly or indirectly, stop it. We
are our own entity, and I am going to do things on our website, on our email, on our video footage, because everything else is secondhand and thirdhand, and in
Hearsay.
many cases, deliberately incorrect. If I want to buy a plane ticket, I go to United Airline website. You want to know what's going on at MSAD 15? Go to the MSAD 15 website. That's my soapbox. But it's caused problems with this particular process, with this bond, and our budget process.
And we will be putting together a very easy to navigate, robust website, just assuming we move forward, just for this referendum too. So people don't have to go digging around that, you know, every time we come up with a question, great, we're gonna ask the tech people to, this should be, you know, this should be on that. We're gonna have a page just for turf. We're gonna, you know, so.
And it'll all be linked from our own website.
Yeah, and it'll be officially part of our website, and I am in total agreement with Craig's philosophy.
And in terms of the moneymaker, many communities have said, yeah, if we build this big theater, we'll be theater owners and we'll manage it and we'll make it all kinds of money, and that doesn't happen. You know, maybe a local group will rent for a weekend, a local group will rent for 2 weeks, and they pay a fee that goes in the general fund, but it's not going to pay for a $12 million bond project.
Just, I don't want to beat this too hard, but I just think it's important to the money, the earnings thing, is that this was proposed to serve an underserved group of students. We need the cafeteria and the Performing Arts Center for the programs and education that we provide. If they happen to make a little money on the side, fabulous. But they need to exist whether we charge a penny for anything ever. In the same way that if we stop next week charging for football games, the football team still has to play on the field, and we still need a field. The existence of the facility is for the benefit of the kids. And hopefully we can make it available to the community. But in no way, we are not in the business of earning money for anything. And any money we do earn offsets taxes, goes back in our fund, and it offsets something. It gets spent in these buildings, and it's money we don't have to ask for.
Amen.
So I just think that this whole conversation needs to go away. I mean, that is not, all of the stuff that's been proposed, the gym, the theater, everything, is for the benefit of the students. And if we can make it available to the community, wonderful. And if there's a fee attached to it, fine. We have a fee structure. But that's not the intent. And I don't know where that came from. And hopefully we've dispelled it tonight.
On the process of getting ready for the bond, does the attorneys write up the language, or does the administration write up the attorneys for the bond?
We would get, the attorneys would help us with that.
So how much lead time do they need for helping us with?
We are gonna give them until August the 7th.
So
Because that's what we got.
we've already activated our bond attorney. He's Mr. Greg M., who moderates our meetings. The mechanical services, who's doing the air quality grant, they have the language. There's 6 paragraphs that are specific, and they have the language ready for us.
That'll be on the bond, 6 paragraphs?
Just for the
Yeah,
HVAC.
because to do the...
No, I know, just for HVAC.
To do the air quality bond, I think there's 5 separate, rather large questions that the community has to vote on. So those are already prepared. They've already been vetted. So we can deliver those pre-made. The ones that are specific to the fields, the performing arts renovation, kitchen renovation, that would have to go through our own personnel, our own attorney.
And to do so would need some additional information too on a recommendation from the finance folks on what if anything we put forward, what kind of financing we can get, what kind of, if there would be phasing. So that's all things we're gonna need in order to move forward on the 7th, vote on exact wording and sign warrants, so that the towns can move forward.
So what's left now, right now, is to figure out, well, how many items do we want? Do we want one bond, or do we want it broken out? That's what we're gonna vote on right now.
And we could ask, I think we have a little bit of time, and we could also ask Craig to move forward with, can we see, what would it look like if we did HVAC standalone, we're all in agreement on
Yes.
that. Full facilities bond, question 2, or HVAC, facilities, and a third question, do you want the turf, literally break out the turf, or do we word the facility, the bond as, these upgraded fields and the fine, we're asking for approval for the money for the project, what the project looks like in the end. It's kind of like our budget, we're asking for a number, the voters weigh in on it, but they don't actually get to say, I want you to take iPads from the pre-K. Like, we could remove the $11,000, but, so do we make the fields a project in the ultimately what it looks like is determined as we move forward? Do we ask what they feel about turf? So I think those are the things we maybe don't even need to vote on, but we need to ask to have. For the 7th, I think first we need a motion on moving the date to November, because we voted on that before.
No opposition.
Do you want to make the motion?
I make a motion.
Brad, make the motion.
That was my original motion 6 months ago.
So make the motion.
I make a motion that we hold the bond vote during the general election in November.
Second.
All in favor? All right, good. So we got that taken care of. The towns will be super relieved. And I think it's the right thing to do. We said we'll keep doing the next right thing. I think it's what people want, and I don't think we could even be ready. I wanted to get it done as soon as we could, and I thought we could be ready, and we can't. So there's absolutely no sense. So then what do we want? Great, we've just voted. We're gonna have a referendum in November. Next meeting in August, we will have to have that language. We will have to agree on final language. What do we want to ask to see for language for that in terms of?
What are you talking about as far as piecemealing?
Right, like what does our referendum look
So
like?
I guess maybe I missed something. I know you kind of hit on it earlier, but maybe I did miss something along the way in some of the meetings. But I guess my understanding was I did hear kind of what you would have heard at some of our public meetings in the Oxygen was that they didn't want to pit different societies or entities or extracurricular activities against others. So I guess what I took away from everything we've done so far is that HVAC needed to be separated from the project, which I agree with. Turf was obviously going to be a huge point of contention, so I think a lot of us agreed that turf would be separated from it. But other than that, the overall other project as far as additions and fields, I felt as though would be all together. So technically, 3 different pieces to the bond.
Yeah.
Again, unless I missed something, I didn't hear from the public that they wanted to separate an auditorium versus a cafeteria versus fields versus I don't think that was appropriate, and I don't think that's what we were asked for. So I would suggest the 3.
I think that we should keep turf in. I don't think it should be a separate question, and I say that because my take from those meetings was that it was going to be sort of one package. Again, we don't want to separate things out, and us as a board are going to decide like this is the number, right? This is the golden number, and that will include turf or not. I just get worried if we separate it out. It just adds more confusion, just like with the normal school budget, we're not gonna separate out the iPad. You know, that was a big topic and it came up all the time, but we didn't separate it out. This was the school budget, and that's how I kind of view the bond.
The risk is the drawings, the proposal we're sharing shows turf, you know? And so there's an assumption that that's the plan if we don't break it out, and the fear from what we've heard is that there will be a group that will say, no, I'll tank the whole thing.
But it's the same group that might say, well, I would do the fields, but I wouldn't do the auditorium. There's always going to be some sort of line, and if we're not gonna separate 12 million from 15 million, because why would we do 2 million for a turf field? I just feel like this is, you can separate out a million different ways, and then it's gonna get really confusing.
Yeah, I think we're just talking about offering people a voice on the thing that we're hearing the most potential.
I totally hear that, but I think we try to sell it the best we can. We have a meeting about turf, and so people can ask their questions, and they can see the picture where it does show, like, yes, turf is expensive, but so is maintaining grass. It's different when you see it, I think. And so let's have those informational meetings. Like, we've heard the public has questions. Let's answer them.
Okay, and actually, this is important, so I'd love to go right around and get everybody's take on it. So we've gone here, do you mind if we just go this way?
No. I'm split, but I kind of am leaning with Cole to have three. Just pull turf and make it its own question.
Can I offer just one thing? Because I agree partly with what Sharon says too, but regardless, there's going to be a field, right? Like, it's going to be a field.
Yep.
I guess at this point, is it going to be a grass field, or is it going to be, we'll call upgraded to a turf? So either way, it's going to be a field. We know that. It's just a matter of, is it going to be upgraded to turf, or is it going to be traditional sod? I just think that we have seen previous votes in other districts, plus what's happened here. But I totally understand what you're saying, and I see both sides of it.
There also could be no field. They won't know. There could be no field.
Absolutely. I think a lot of the early on discussions that we've had, and plus also years past, listening to a lot of different meetings, is that it was such a point of contention that by packaging it all together, there was a lot more likelihood of tanking the whole entire bond project, only because of the contentious one piece. So you're right. Are we doing a service to the community, to our students, by knowing what we know and keeping that in there with the potential of tanking the whole project? You're right, it's a gamble. So I don't know the proper answer. I guess I just felt as though breaking into the three components was probably the safest bet. So
My other fear, though, is that if you see it, you get your sheet of paper and it says $6 million for the HVAC, $58 million for the board, and then do you want $2 million for turf? If it's the last item.
I would suggest you don't put a dollar figure on turf. The turf is a
But don't you
referendum
have
overnight
to?
when a turf.
If you're asking for money
Why?
attached to it?
Then we don't change the total, because the money has to include improvements to grass. If turf doesn't happen, we've got sprinklers.
Okay, I always assumed it had to have a dollar
I
amount
was
to
actually
it.
wondering about
because-
that, if we could
The
literally
referendum is
referendum
turf is a
people,
concept.
the community's opinion on turf. But I don't know that we
Because
can.
it has to be, otherwise, it's not my turn.
Yeah, so let's just keep going. Teresa, Steve, wait.
Yeah, I'm leaning with Cole.
Okay, great.
Yep.
Fran, your turn.
We have taken up most of this meeting on turf, just like the public.
Just
did.
like the public meeting.
As you noticed. Okay, let's do it this way. It's been stated by a board member in public that if it's turned down, the whole bond package is turned down because the turf is in there, they find out because the turf is in there, don't worry, we'll take it out for the following year, we'll come back again. Now that's the worst case scenario to come back to the public in, the following year just because of one item. If you think they're mad now with the amount of taxes they're gonna have to pay, imagine, coming back with it $1 million less the following year, but doing the same thing all over again.
Right,
That's
unless
really
that's what people are
not a
saying
way to
they
do
want.
business. Pardon?
Unless that's what, I think what Sam meant was if that's what's holding it up, we'll offer it again without the.
But that's my point.
Yeah.
So, I think the suggestion of having the turf separate is the way to go. It's answered once and for all. And the rest of it, lump it together if everyone feels that that's the best way to go. I personally would do it, individually. But, I hear the tone of everybody, and I think that, going with it lumped together, excluding the turf. That's a very contentious item. It's here tonight. It's been out there in the public. We voted on it twice in the past, and it's been turned down twice in the past. So, over the years. So, I think that's the most logical way of going right now. And thanks for that suggestion too, because I think that'll solve the problem, and we can deal with this once and for all. So if you want to take a gamble, it's called a gamble now, and you lump everything together, and you put all eggs in one basket, then, and I don't mean it derogatory, I mean that's the reality of it all. You're gambling. Or if it's individually, at least you get something, maybe. So it's a gamble, it's a toss-up, and I don't think it's our role to, I think we're supposed to help the taxpayers as much as possible with an extreme like this, with a hit like this. Counting the fact that Gray is being revaled. By the way, and that reval new figure will be in by the time this is getting ready, and so that hasn't even been factored in how much more it's going to cost some people. There's so many ways of looking at that, so we have to stay focused on the figures of the bond and how do we want to present it. And I personally think that separating each item is best, but I'll go along if everyone decides to do it as a package, excluding the trips separately.
Lauren?
I'm leaning also to putting it into the 3 parts, but I'm sort of torn on the not showing a number for the turf, just because I feel, because it's so contentious, that we want to make sure that people really understand it. But I also feel like then it's also our duty to make sure people understand the ramifications, that if it is $2 million, but what does it mean later on in the cost comparison of the traditional? So really putting it on us to make sure we're educating people on what that really means.
Yeah. I wonder the question could even say, because sometimes they're endlessly long, right?
Yeah.
Do you approve a turf field at an additional cost of $1.2 million, in which will avoid in approximately whatever $1 million over 10 years in maintenance or whatever?
Yeah, can you say what the approximate, a lot of times in engineering, we present information on the life cycle cost. So present it as, here's the installation, here's the maintenance cost, and take that, compare it against the grass, and that if you provide it as a life cycle cost,
which we have that information,
then that is much more informative.
Yep.
I'd rather provide those numbers actually on the ballot so that people can really understand it and not just focus on what's the install cost.
Right.
Yep.
Great. That's a good point. Missy?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I was more towards just the 2 questions, but hearing, all of the sides, which is really healthy that we do this. My fear with what Sharon said is that, if you have this plus this plus this, at the 3rd question, everybody's like, nope, more money, nope, more money, we need this, we want this, but let's just take this out because it's saving us a little bit of money. But if we are able to add
Life cycle
a life cycle cost and to say that in the long run, the turf does save us 15%. We've done the research. We'll provide, we're going to do all of those things leading up to this so that we have everybody educated, hopefully, to say yes on that question, I guess. If we make it the third one, that we need to educate people so they will say yes to it.
I think I've seen what Lauren is talking about, and it would be on the it would be there with the explanation, but still, it wouldn't kill the main motion. It would just defeat itself if it's not convincing enough or whatever, if they're not educated enough. You know what I'm saying? So, as a separate item.
Can I jump in again? And in the big picture, talking about the entire project, not mention what type of field, and going back to what Gary said is, well, if it's not spent there, it sort of goes into that contingency pot, which we hope to not have to use all of it, but it's there, been approved by the voters. It's a contingency, though, does not mean we have to use it.
Right, and that is a whole thing I had on my notes too. It's tricky because Mike left a big, it's
What was the
formulaic, but it's a
percent?
big contingency.
What?
I don't remember, but it's like 8 million.
It's 15%, I think.
15, that's not a big
It's
percent.
not a big contingency
So
when you
he
look at it
said,
as a
like,
percentage.
you need it, but if everything goes well, that is a lot of money that you don't end up borrowing, that we don't end up, and you don't wanna, we're not gonna go out and do a whole show to the voters that like, oh yeah, you can scratch some of this off, but to also educate, a lot of these pieces are for this or that, and in our worst case, final loan is this, and we will be working on these things throughout, so. Okay, Adam.
So Shepherd's has turf on some of the fields. So, I'm just saying, base center. Yeah, so I actually played on turf, which is the damnedest thing because we loved it. But I'm sure everybody that got up and knocked it did too. So,
You want to show us your game tonight?
no, that's what those are for. We had someone come up and say, I'm gonna vote no on this whole thing if turf's in it. And we all are, and I don't know who we all is, but that's he was like, I support all of this, but I'll vote no if turf's in it. Which is just one person speaking at the end of a 2-hour meeting. Is what it is. So I think I would probably lean towards having that as a little sub question, however we want to do it. If there's a dollar amount that goes with irrigating the new grass field, that if it's a money thing, that might kind of balance the scales to some people. And I think on a neighboring district's website, they had some trouble with this, and it got voted down a few years ago. And in like their main thing are their top recurring questions and bullet points, and then like education on those bullet points. So if our new website gets up and turf's a thing, like we'll learn more here, and here's the presentation dates, and we can just, I think the best we can do is provide as much education on it, and maybe a little bit of options. I think that would be good. The whole I'm gonna go home and do my own research thing, it's like we get it in business all the time. It's like just 25 years of research, but you can go do 15 minutes on your phone and tell me what you think's best, and it, yeah. So, yeah.
Gary?
I have several problems with the whole thing, but one of the things that we haven't talked about, and to me is the one piece of all this that we actually really need, is the cafeteria.
That's
I mean,
what
that
we
was
have
identified in all these polls and
the
stuff as an
cafeteria.
ident, it's one of the top problems with the communities, the amount of time we have for kids to eat.
Yeah.
That doesn't get solved without the accompanying performing arts piece, just because they're part of the same mush.
And we don't have that space at all.
Right, but I would hate to lose the piece that we really, truly, well, we need it all.
Yeah.
But the part that we need right now, the
Cafeteria.
part that affects every kid, every day, right now, is that cafeteria, which has been a problem since the day it was redesigned 17 years ago by a previous board that we don't have to discuss. And I wasn't here then. I came on the, I came on the board when we were doing the punch list for that project. So it was all done by then.
You're like, this sucks.
But I hate to pit a group against a group. You'd like to think that we're all adults, they'd be above that, but I'm not gonna pretend. But I would hate to lose the cafeteria for the turf. If somebody gets pissy about it.
Yeah.
My language is deteriorated tonight.
Well,
This brings up the worst of me.
Closing in on 2 hours, that's fine.
Because initially, when we first started talking about this, my thought was to break it up into performing arts cafeteria, gym and fields, and HVAC. So that we don't lose the HVAC stands alone anyways.
Okay.
With the idea that we would get something to improve our district. I totally understand the feeling that if it's all important, it all ought to be together. And I just worry that we'll lose the parts we really almost can't do without, because of an emotional response to a little piece. So I guess my thought would be to lump everything in. I mean, and I'm totally in on the turf. My son played on the fields out here for years, and he played on turf everywhere else he went. I get the pros and the cons, all that stuff. I just keep coming back to community use, hours on the field, the nuts and bolts of why we need the turf, and it's only one turf field. And I also have in the back of my mind, as I made a comment, I don't ramble here, sorry, excuse me. I almost feel like if the turf is a separate piece that sits over here on the side, then the budget for the athletic fields has to be adjusted to allow for that to happen, because we're gonna move the sprinkler system, we're gonna bring in all new sod, it's gonna be regraded. The rest of the plan moves the field. So there's going to be some large costs associated with moving and reconstructing our grass field with sprinkler system, as opposed to constructing a turf field with no sprinkler system. You know, you don't just cleave that piece off and there's no repercussion.
Right.
There's money that's got to be left behind. So I don't know how you allow people to say, take the turf out and vote it down without an accommodation for the amount of money that we now have to have over here instead to fix the grass.
Well, yeah, that would have to be in there, right? That question that says this amount of money to do these things would have to be the right number to do those fields without turf. And then whatever the delta is, so it might not even be that much. It might end up being like,
I suspect by the time you add sprinkler system to it stuff, it's not going to be that.
right, maybe it's like for $10 more, do you want turf? Because we want to take that out of it.
So I guess
That's why we need that breakdown.
I'd see turf come apart, just to do something like it.
What's that, Gary?
I think it's hard, you know, because it's all important. So I guess where I'm going to land tonight is that we do it all in one piece, including the turf. We don't split anything. We recommend and defend what we think is important.
All right, wait.
It was a long way to get there, I'm sorry.
That's okay. Was it relative to that, or?
Well, I was just gonna say, I think that if there's one piece I think that has been a complete agreement with everyone is the educate. I thought what Lauren brought up at the The life cycle?
Life
Okay.
cycle.
It's, that's really important with this conversation because the install cost is where there's a huge difference, right? Putting in grass versus that's where it's huge, but it's the life cycle.
If we have to move our
But it's the
entire
life cycle
irrigation system.
maintenance part of it that really, from what they showed us at that, one of the bond meetings. But I'm just saying, from what I've heard from everybody, there is one piece, I think that's huge in agreement, is that we need that education to make sure that we do everything that we can to educate.
So, just I
Are you
want
doing a
to.
consensus, or have we taken a formal
She was
vote?
just trying to figure out where everybody's at.
I want to get consent, I just want to get the, because I don't know that this is something we need to vote on. We need to
Okay.
ask Craig what to bring us. And just to complete the circle, I struggle with all the same things. I've been a staunch defender of not pitting anyone or any kids' needs against one another. There's a piece of me that wants to break out all the things so that we get something, but getting something, I think, is a death sentence to everything left on the table. The voters are not gonna come back in 5 years and do a new one at a new premium, because guess what? We're gonna
It'll
pay
cost
for
more money.
permits, we're gonna pay for everything all over again. And so whatever wins forever. And I can't, that's not, I know we all have our own stuff that we bring to this and who we think we represent. But, the oath that we took to do this role is that we represent the best interests of the children of this district, period. That's the job. And we have spent over a year finding out what this district needs, and it is this. So to me, the next step is we ask the voters, do you support this? And I will be really upset if we lose it over people who can't agree on turf. So I would not separate out the individual projects, but I would look at how could we have a question that is turf. But I think that's what we could ask Craig to bring back to us. That's only two things we're struggling with, right? What would a referendum look like without breaking it out? And what would a ballot look like if we have turf as a separate question? And then
include all the information.
Include the information, and then we can say we have no time. We only have a couple weeks to. I don't know that we get that much more of a pulse from the community on whether or not they're willing to kill this over turf. But what we're hearing from people is they're willing to kill this thing over turf. So
It happened on the last bond. There were people that, in all the sausage making of putting a bond together like we've done the last 2 years, there was a group, didn't get what they wanted, so they actually campaigned against the whole bond. And I would like to think that we didn't hear that from anyone. I was interested to see what the taxpayers who have no children in school would say. And their biggest concern was cost. Their biggest concern was not that you're doing all of these things. They seem to understand the concept that you need to improve your schools or maintain your schools, but I would hate to think that, and I don't know how we address this when we campaign for the bond, is the idea of there's 48 components. I am so committed to this one component not going my way that I'm going to vote against everything. And so that's
see it happen.
Yeah.
We're seeing it happen.
The other piece we see it happen everywhere. The other, one issue candidates or one issue kind of thinking. The other thing that I think we need to speak, first of all, educating people on the ballot itself. I don't know if we can do that or should do that. The other thing is, if we say we want to give the community the choice of, no, I don't want turf, therefore, if we vote down turf, we will default to the traditional sod field. Fine, I could live with that, but what about our architectural design? Will that throw that into, the design they made was for turf. They originally wanted to do for us multiple turf fields, and we said, no, we want one premier turf field. And I believe those are the plans that we have now. But I think we need to speak to our architects and say, we want to give the voters a choice between the two. If they vote against turf, what does this mean? Does it change our whole plan and bidding and their subcontractors and redesign?
Right, and it shouldn't, because we don't have that yet. We should be able to say to Activitas, we want to keep the same plan, tell us what it would cost with the grass field, you have 48 hours. I mean, that is not a hard, in fact, I asked them conversationally, saying, we're probably going to need to see grass or like the high-tech SOPO, non-dangerous stuff. What does that look like? And, yeah.
Just one thing occurs to me is we're having this conversation based on these handful of meetings and we're having this conversation based on the response we saw at this handful of meetings. And none of those meetings did we have much attendance by the kids or parents who are actually going to be on these fields. I think we need to have this, if we do this turf session, it needs to have some turnout. We need to encourage turnout from the people who are actually going to benefit from it. You don't see Patriot Soccer or Little League or anybody represented in those community groups we've had. We've had the ones that want to come and make sure that their angry voices heard. But we haven't had a whole lot of anybody come on the other side. They're still going to vote. I'm hoping they're going to vote in favor. But I think we need to hear from those people if we can.
We did hear from them back in the winter.
Right.
They did come.
The basketball team was at the height of their
Yeah, in the field, people came in April before. We're seeing different people at all, because I know the faces, and we're seeing very few come to both of those things, but turf came up. I feel like turf came up then too, didn't it, Cole?
Yeah.
Yeah. But and if we have it on the ballot and we've done a good job
Wording.
with educating people between now and then, there's every reason to think that, we can get the support for it. But are we willing to stake the whole? We're just out of time. We have to bring forward wording on August 7th, or we're not even going to be on the November ballot.
So I also have just another question of if we did separate it out of, all the components minus and then have a turf question separate. What is the message that we should take as a board if all of it gets voted, minus the HVAC, but if the other two questions get voted down?
I think that will leave us with a whole bunch of work to do to find out, because we know that
then we have to focus on
the
cafeteria.
This need isn't going away.
Yeah.
So I would love to see so much work done in the next 6 weeks so that the community agrees with that assessment and moves it forward, because this need is not going to go away. The conversation is not going to go away. Our attempts to solve the problem are not going to go away, and it's only going to get more expensive. But we don't know until that point what we're looking at next. So,
to Gary's point, a massive concerted effort was made to contact every coach, every athlete, Patriot parents, booster parents, theater coaches, everyone, to attend one of those two meetings.
So, is it something new?
Well, no, I was just gonna say, we did hear from the Crossroads in Gray.
Yeah, and there's
Patriots.
Yeah.
Patriots.
And the boosters reached out and they want to talk about the snack shack, which we will definitely do, but this is that kind of thing of cart before the horse. Like, we
need to,
cannot
yeah.
spend more time on it and money on it unless the community supports it. And if they do, we are gonna bring you an awesome snack shack, I promise. I guarantee it, you know, so, but we have to get to that point. So I don't wanna spend any more time on this. I mean, I'm, you know, I'm happy to talk about it all night, but I think we're saying the same things. When I hear the same things 2 or 3 times, I think that means we've probably said most of the things. So, can I get a motion to move our we did this.
We did this.
We did this.
We voted for November.
Right.
Yep.
So,
November.
thank
November.
you. So do we want to ask Craig to come back on August 7th with ballot language that would separate the HVAC, the larger bond project, and a turf question? Can people live with that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let me write this down exactly. Anyway. My memory isn't what it used to be. I need to write it down.
3.
I mean,
3 questions.
Right, 3 questions.
Did you want to have it as a 2 question on one sheet of
If you
paper
wanna
and
see
a
what
3
it-
question?
yes.
Because you thought you wanted to see it
Yeah,
one
you
way.
had laid it out.
Initially, you had said you wanted HVAC and the whole kit and caboodle, but then you also wanted to see,
Oh, I was saying we could, if we want to continue to have the conversation on whether we want to include or exclude turf. I just think we're very short on time.
So
Yeah.
air quality is a go.
yeah.
That's all
So
set.
that's
We
all
don't have to
question.
do
But we do
anything.
still want to look at that because I've heard some very confusing things about how that looks. Like, is that going to be one question?
Yes,
Yes.
it's
Is
going to
that
be
one?
multiple questions to do the air quality grant.
So we'll have to educate on that too, that you have to say yes on multiple.
It's not just, do
or
you
no,
want
multiple
to
parts.
support this,
But will it be its own piece of paper? So you know you're kind of in the HVAC or not? Like, is there a risk?
I don't
They're
know what it
articles
looks like. What
that-
I know is.
Thank you. So there are articles under the question.
Yes,
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
yeah.
So that will be a thing, we have that ready to look at. And then we need the one on, the facilities project, a bond with a turf question, with a separate turf question.
So bond to include facilities. Oh wait, sorry. Kitchen, cafeteria, performing arts, fields, and then a third question for turf.
Turf. And we need recommendations on what of our own capital do we put into this? What kind of, what kind of actual financing are we looking at? Like, we'd have to know that for the question. I don't know. I know Diane's time is limited. I don't know if there's something that she could look at before August 7th, but it has to be, because we won't meet again.
Because it has to include the financing part.
It has to be a ready-to-go question.
And if we decide to use money out of our funds, remind me, do we have to have that voted on? I can't remember how that works.
That's another question. Yeah, Craig, would we have to vote if we wanted to contribute money to it? Would we have to have that?
So it wouldn't be tied to the bond. What you would have to do as a board is say, we want to take $2 million of designated funds or $2 million of capital reserve, whatever your source is. We want to use $2 million of existing dollars as seed money. So what it means is, so you would have to vote on using that, but it wouldn't be tied to the ballot. It'd be separate.
Voters vote on that, or we vote on that?
You vote on
We
it.
vote
The
on it.
board
But voters
votes
do
on
not
that.
have to vote on that one?
No. So what you would do is if the bond, let's say the bond were for $10 million, you needed $10 million. The board says, let's put $2 million of existing our own money, then you would only have to bond out $8 million. So that's,
We would want that to be, the voters to understand that. I know we couldn't contribute you know, half of it, but I think it also, we had talked way back about it shows, you know, we will put in some matching fund, you know, we're willing to invest. It could delay repayment, you know, but we would have to have those recommendations.
There was also suggestions about donations and that type of thing as well. I'm not sure that that's not going to be included in the bond, but that's for the future consideration. The seed money of $2 million, but also if corporate names or anything like that comes into play, we have to look at that. So,
And we don't have that in town. I mean, people bring that up a lot, like part of growing our community is having a solid school system that attracts businesses that want to spend their money here, you know, like I understand Freeport's in pretty good shape. They have a new performing arts center. They've got LLB. We don't. So, you know, I think that's a little bit unrealistic too. We don't want to make a lot of promises to people who say go fundraise. We know it's not there.
Yeah.
We know it isn't.
So
What's that?
I'm not sure that all was golden with Freeport. Yes, LL Bean built it, but LL Bean sort of said, this is what we're going to do for you, and this is what it's going to look like.
Right. Yep.
Take it or leave it.
You know, that happens. Okay. So.
Can I make sure I have it correct?
Yeah.
All right, so the air quality, I'll get that from Mr. Bresnahan. A bond question that includes the kitchen, cafeteria, performing arts, and fields, all inclusive.
Gymnasium.
And and also that includes the gymnasium too.
Oh, and gymnasium.
Yeah.
Just see.
Full bond.
The full
Yeah, the full package.
Yeah, we didn't get a gymnasium because the superintendent forgot to type it. And then the turf question. And then to what degree do we use existing funds? And then to what degree, so you want answers for those four things.
Because what would the actual real tax implication to the taxpayers be? We only have a back of envelope. We would need that. We would need that.
Yeah.
You know, that.
I'm not sure how quickly that can be drawn up, and
but you don't need it for the warrant right now. You just need that for vote before the vote.
correct. You need the
But
wording.
we need the language because we have to decide on what they're gonna put on the vote.
Right.
So we need to know by the
And
7th.
how we're gonna, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh.
So, great.
But do we want to, we don't want to forget, part of the turf question is being giving all the information. You know, what are the costs of doing a grass field, moving the irrigation, like can we weigh that out in that question? So that is,
So
it's not just the turf, it's about
Life
giving
cycle.
them the life cycle.
So I don't think that goes on a bond question. I don't think that goes on the ballot. You don't go in, you go in and I'm gonna vote for Walter Mondale, or I'm gonna vote for Ronald Reagan. You don't
But some
go
of
in
those
and read
paragraphs
their
are this
biography.
long.
huh?
Yeah, some of those paragraphs are this long.
It can include some language of,
Yeah.
at a cost of X dollars.
Over
you know,
so many years.
Over so many
Right.
years to
Do you
defray
approve?
an equivalent of whatever dollars in maintaining a grass field. You know, like there should be a sentence in there.
And then what if 5 years later, that isn't the case? And
It says,
yeah, I think we need to speak to a ballot expert about what we
Yeah,
can.
yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
fine
yeah.
with that, yeah, let's just engage
Because
that.
we could certainly make an FAQ, the one that Mr. Bresnahan made was really good, that was passed out to the public. If, I like it, FAQ.
but not everybody sees that.
Yeah, we want as much,
Well,
like, it's time to pull out both barrels on everything we
so
can.
do we get that to people? How do we get that to people? Do we get that information to people?
17 ways.
Yeah, I mean,
Okay, so,
We don't have that expertise here. I
Right.
think we need to get a
We'll-
Yeah, we need to
professional
ask the
to.
question.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we don't write
How much
bonds.
can we?
Right.
and
Yeah.
I'm sure there's turf, we're not the first person to put a turf question on a ballot, so I'm
Right.
sure there's language out there we can look at. And that's what we pay lawyers for. So, let's move on. Do we feel comfortable, we're gonna see the ballot, potential proposed ballot referendum with those? with
Yes.
those? Okay. All right, so, next up is to review the 2024-2025 school board meeting calendar to include professional developments.
All right. So I thought I might have to table this till August 7th, but I think we were able to get it done. I met with Gary and Penny last week, and I met with Adam 2 or 3 times last fall, or no, last spring and this summer, and to talk about professional development.
Thank you.
So this is a draft. Any changes can be made, and we'll have you vote on it August 7th. So in terms of school board professional development, and we talked a lot about that the last year. If you look at September 18, 2004, 8 characteristics of effective school board members making commitments to what we do and how we do our work as a school board. So this is something that is published by the National School Board Association, and what they've done is they've looked at school districts that have high achievement. They have high graduation rates, they have high reading rates, they have high mathematics rates, they have high rates of kids that go off to the military or to college and are successful afterwards. And what they found was there are 8 characteristics of school boards that have these high achieving schools. And a lot of them are cultural. How we work together, how we plan things, how do we interact with each other, how do we make decisions, what's the core of our decision making. And it's really very good, and it's not complex. And it's also very utilitarian. You can do a self-assessment of these 8 things. Does our school board communicate well amongst each other? And if 6 of you say no, then gee whiz, maybe that's something we want to work on. If one of the questions is school board members understand their student performance data and make decisions based on how well their students perform. And if 7 of the, or if 10 of 11 you say, yeah, we do that all the time, then we won't work on it. But I like this document because it's not very long. It's from the National School Boards Association. There is a similar document applied to school administration and organizational management that I use here. It's called the Correlates of Effective Schools Research. So, and they're very similar. So anyway, I think this is worth time for the board. Not complicated, self-reflective, and then you can pick 2 or 3 things that we might want to work on during the year or not. And then the next piece is what every MSAD 15 school board member needs to know, reference guide. And that's the piece that Adam and I spent about quite a bit of time looking at, and we have shared some of that information with you in last April's meeting. And it's basically a 10-page document. It's a template that we fill in with our information about everyday questions for board members. Where do I go to find this? You know, what does the personnel committee do? If I want to get something on the personnel committee agenda, what do I do? It includes basic things like central office phone number, basic things like how many kids in each school, how many teachers in each school, how many ed techs in each school, who is the principal and what's his phone number. Seemingly simple things that, you know, and board members, you know, one of the things we faced with this school board is when I first began here, in my first 4 years as superintendent, it was a veteran school board. And so they had their own culture and way of doing things. Over the last 2 election cycles, you're all new, and we assumed that you knew a lot of things that you didn't. So this sheet, or this little booklet that Adam sort of turned me on to, is going to address a lot of those things that will simply be a really good reference guide for you to use. And then that same night is policy. So whenever we have a problem in this school district, and I call for external advice, guess what they say?
Which policy?
What does your policy say? What does your policy say? If there's a problem with the teacher, what does your policy say? If there's a problem with the student, what does your policy say? If there's a problem with the bus route, what does the policy say? So the board is extremely powerful because it develops policy. And so that's a really important thing that we should talk about, why policy is important, what it means for you. When someone approaches you, when you're looking over cabbages in the produce section and they tell you as a board member, what do I do about this? This happened at school. The default is, I'm not sure. But I can check the policy, I can check with the principal, I can check with the superintendent. And so, and it took me a long time to learn this as a superintendent, because guess what? When I was a principal and I called the superintendent with a problem, you know what he said?
Check the policy.
What does the policy say? I don't know. Well, there's a binder in your desk, it's called a policy book. You can. So policy is worth a lot of discussion because it's where your power is you determine how things are and aren't done, and it sets the standards how things work in the district. And again, it's one of those 8 characteristics of effective school boards. Effective school boards or high-performing school districts have really tight policy development. And then the next workshop would be November 20. Collective bargaining agreements are working relationships with our employees and using the negotiation process to achieve goals for student outcomes. So that is extraordinarily important. Almost all your employees, 90% plus of your employees, work under a collective bargaining agreement. You have commitments through those agreements. It's a mutual agreement. People love to say, oh, that teacher contract or that. No, it's a contract between 2 parties. It's between the teachers and the school board, or between the support staff and the school board. And in my time here, I've seen the school board have goals for student performance or how the schools will be run, and they have been able to attain it over multiple contract terms. For example, Gary lived this. Gee whiz, you guys are young. But for a long time, the pay scale was inequitable. It was okay at the beginning, and it was really good at the end, but in the middle, from like year 8 to 18, teachers were flat. And they'd say, well, I got to stay another 10 years before I get a raise, and so they would leave. So how many contract cycles did it take? 3, Gary?
At least 2, not 3.
Yeah, and so now our teacher contract's pretty equitable. It is a steady growth. You know, that every year you're going to get something. It's not all the money's piled here and nothing in the middle. So that was done through collective bargaining with the associations. And so a lot of good things can happen from collective bargaining agreements. And I've been very happy here. I think, except maybe my first, all of them have been really positive in that both the unions and the school board can point to things that, yeah,
We both got stuff that we wanted and will make schools better. So that's, and there is no contract up right now, but the teacher's contract will be up the next year. And those of you that have served on a negotiations agreement, it's all pre-work. It's all pre-work. You've got to start full 6 months, 8 months in advance to do your pre-work before you sit at the table. And so I think that is a good topic. And then the third topic, or the final topic, is essential programs and services, the ED 279, and how MSAD funds its schools. So that's massive. Being able to understand the ED 279 and being able to understand the essential programs and services is really important. It's very nuanced. If you understand the ED 279, Diane Boucher and Ann Rowe working together with that little piece of paper called the ED 279, they were able to do some really good things for the school district because they were able to squeeze out every single penny. And there's an art form to understanding the ED 279. But if you look at the workshops that I've described for you, 8 characteristics of highly effective boards. How do we work together? What are common things we agree upon? What do we believe as a board? What's our work as a board? What's acceptable as a board? What's not acceptable as a board? And then the reference guide. Okay, policy, collective bargaining, and building a budget. Those are the 3 most important things that a school board does. Hiring a superintendent is encoded in law. Funding the schools is encoded in law. Collective bargaining is encoded in law. And I'm missing a third one. Policy is law. You're a mini legislature when you adopt policy. So those 4 things over 4 months, I think, is going to raise a lot of votes and make us much more informed. And but I put the 8 characteristics of highly effective boards first, because those are commitments that the 11 of you will make to each other. And so we have until August 7th for you to sleep on this and think about it. And we try and do equal number of committee meetings. I proofread this 14 times. Maggie's proofread it 14 times. Could you please proofread it? Because every year we think we've got it perfect and then we don't. So if you see an idiosyncrasy, please email me.
So these are, the workshops are in addition to the school board? It's like, so how long are we planning on those meetings to be? Is it normal school board business?
So it's a
and then we're doing a
workshop.
workshop, or is it just coming to do a workshop?
No, it's just part of the workshop night.
Yeah,
There's
so-
no business meeting.
No business meeting?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a workshop.
Yeah, just wanted to make sure.
Yeah, it's not.
Am I planning to be
yeah,
until
and that's the other
7:30,
thing.
10:30 and bring my pillow, or what?
No, I don't want to do these kinds of things when there's a board meeting because
Okay, that's what I assumed, but I just
if
wanted to
you're
ask.
coming here from a full day's work, just doing the workshop will be more than enough.
So what's the time frame for the workshops, do you think?
I think 2 hours is maximum because
Yeah, on a workshop night, that's pretty typical.
2 hours
Yeah,
is a
no,
lot.
it's a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot. Yeah.
Okay, just wanted to double check.
Good, I think this looks really good.
Thank you.
So when people ask you, what does the school board do anyway?
Nothing.
Okay, next,
This looks great, thank you, Craig.
we do not have any committee reports. Oh, right,
Can I
Fran.
make a request? Since this has gone very long,
Yes.
do we have to do the bullying tonight? Okay.
It's gonna be very short.
Okay.
I wanna go home too.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. I just wondered.
Am I on?
Yeah, you're on, Fran.
Okay, so about a month ago, someone brought to my attention the data warehouse that's on the State of Maine Education site. And so I went looking and started pushing buttons, and there was one on students. And on the students, it had absenteeism and it had bullying. And when I looked at the numbers that had been reported from district to district to the state, that's where these numbers come from, I was shocked to see that we had so many bullying cases. And so I was working, and then, especially since, our strategic goal says that that we have to have a safe, nurturing environment for the kids, and we have a bullying policy, and the full policy itself talks about what bullying is, what it looks like, and that type of thing. And as far as the repercussions from it, consequences, there's that famous word again that says the policy may be subject instead of shall be. I don't like that word, maybe. And so, but then it says the board retains the right to impose disciplinary consequences for bullying and all that. So before we get to any of that stuff, I said, I looked and our numbers are increasing. They're not decreasing. We have in place strategy, we have in place policy, we have staff members and all that. This is not a downside on staff. It's looking at
what numbers are increasing?
Both.
What?
Absenteeism and bullying for up to 23. I don't have this year's 24 numbers. This is just up to 23.
I'm not sure that that's correct at all.
Well, anyway, it's on the site.
On the data dashboard?
The
data dashboard.
Yeah, and so somehow or another I got hooked up with someone named Monroe, Jonathan, and because I told him, I says, these numbers look, different than what I looked at a month ago. So then he put me over to other people.
Wait,
and they're looking
where?
into the numbers themselves.
At the state?
At the main Department of Education, yeah. And the person that just called me before I left the home, I gotta say, these people are very, very nice and cooperative, helpful. They want to do anything and everything, whoever you talk to. So the lady who did call me back is Sarah Nelson, and so she's a student engagement specialist. And we talked about, what's going on. She says, Fran, you'd be very interested to know that we have a student attendance toolkit, brand new. And it's 13 pages, and perhaps this would like to, print it out for the school board members. But the bottom line of all of this is that these things aren't improving, even though we have stuff happen, to try to solve some of these problems. In my mind, I thought that perhaps if we had some kind of a get-together, a guest speaker from an expert from the state to come in and talk in an auditorium style or whatever you call it today, round table style, and speak with some parents and students and develop something along that line. Maybe that might help a little bit, but the toolkit is for the board, and so I want to bring this all to everyone's attention. Individually or together, it's not really a policy issue. That's why, because the policy is already there. Sarah did mention that the two are coordinated. Some of the reason for absenteeism sometimes is because of the bullying. And, I personally, I just think it's terrible that, these kids are doing this. And it's something that we should, as a board, look into trying to minimize, or I don't know if you can ever eliminate it, because that's always been going on. They used to call, used to beat up kids in the street, back in my day. But with chains and everything,
Is that something you can share?
Well, that's that toolkit I'm sharing with you, that the 13 pages. Maybe the superintendent can get that to us.
But you haven't seen it?
It's online. She gave me that information as I was walking out the door for this meeting, but I wouldn't print out 13 pages.
No, but could you forward it to us?
I can do
Yeah,
that.
the link, that'd be great.
If, I can forward it to the whole board, yeah.
And do you have the numbers? Did you write down the numbers and how?
Can I have a
Well,
point of order?
yes, so when I
Yeah,
first
raise
looked
my
at this
hand.
over a month ago,
Hang on, Craig, point of order.
All right, I'm the superintendent of schools. And my job every quarter is to officially go to the Maine Department of Education website and report every bullying case. The state law and board policy says I investigate and report every case of bullying. There were 8 this year. They are not increasing. I don't know where you're getting that information, but you've said in a public meeting that our bullying is increasing.
It is.
We had 8 cases last year that were investigated and officially reported to the state with my signature, with my superintendent's license. I don't think it's appropriate for someone to come to the board meeting and just say, well, they're increasing and it's terrible what these kids are doing to each other. That's not backed by the data. That's not backed what I reported to the Maine Department of Education. Our absenteeism, same thing. I report to the Maine Department of Education quarterly. The absenteeism is higher than it has been, but it's decreased over the last 2 years, and that data is clear. Its absenteeism is decreasing in all 5 of our schools, although it is too high.
so this is, I'm not here to accuse or anything like that. I'm trying
You
to,
may
I
stay-
see a problem. And as a board member, a little concerned about that. I want kids to feel safe coming to school.
So
We
I-
all do.
Yeah.
It's not just me.
So Fran,
Yeah.
I am with you 100%. You and I, right here, I am, as you know, I like to trot it out when it's convenient. I'm a social worker by trade. I do not want to see kids bullied. But this was my concern on bringing something up that we haven't all got to look at ahead of time, is when we're talking about data, when there are information out, is there information out there? We haven't got, this is something that Craig should be presenting if we have asked for that. So I think at this point, what's most appropriate is that you share what you found, send it to Craig. I'd love to see the resource, but we are getting into a area we shouldn't be in terms of, what is our role? Like you said, we do have a policy. The data is Craig's job. We hear about that. I'm not saying we shouldn't ask if this is a concern or something you've seen, but let's run it through Craig and have it come back to us when we've had a chance to look
And
at
just to add to that, last fall, when Greg reported that absenteeism was on the rise and he was concerned, and he was gonna have a committee formed and they were gonna report back to the board. I haven't seen a report yet, and I did call last month. I emailed Greg last month about the report.
Point of order.
And I haven't gotten it yet.
Point of order.
Craig.
So I just want you
This
to
was
know that.
discussed in executive session.
Um,
I think we need to stick to the agenda, and I think we need to be very clear on the agendas we make. Because right now, we're talking about an open session that the superintendent didn't do his job. And I think that's something the school board needs to be very careful about, and that school board members need to be very careful about. I am not going to be evaluated at whim by individual school board members with incorrect information that's already been discussed in executive session.
I don't think this has been discussed.
Said what I had to say, and
Yeah.
I'm sticking to what I said.
So Craig,
Okay.
Craig is not wrong, and we're gonna close on this topic for now and move on. And if you have some material you want to share, let's do that, and get things on a future agenda.
Okay, thank you for your time.
And for the record, this is not official data that has been disseminated, or discussed, or in any way, or remarks or assessment of Craig's, Dr. King's performance as superintendent in any way. Next up is committee reports. We don't have any. Okay. School board chair report. I've certainly talked enough tonight. And superintendent report.
Very simply, status update of who we're employing. Our open positions, our filled positions. It's pretty self-explanatory. I'll let you take a minute to digest it.
Thank you.
The Memorial School counselor, Craig, is that the one we hired?
Yes.
That's Michelle.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Where it says will hire.
Well, we met her.
Well, yeah, because I wrote it
That
this
was
afternoon.
tonight.
Yeah, that, we
Okay.
had that.
I didn't want to be presumptuous.
It's
Are these the two state bus drivers that we haven't, that we've been trying to hire? Same two?
Oh,
Did we only budget for one?
well, let's let everyone take a look and then we'll
Oh.
take questions. Before we do that, Craig, any context or things you wanted to draw attention to?
Ed techs are really hard to find. We're hiring really, as you see the resumes and the people you've been meeting, we're hiring really, really good teachers. We're having difficulty finding ed techs. Everything else we seem to be in good shape, should be in very good shape the first day of school. I am concerned about the ed techs. We're going to try and do advertisements on the movie screen preview times, make an ed tech preview time. So a 20, 30-second commercial that people see during the previews. They are good jobs, they're hourly jobs. You make good money for 36 weeks a year. It comes with insurance and vacation and sick time and retirement. But they're still hard to fill.
Did we have any luck with the offering to train them and have the job?
That has become very, very labor intensive and has not really, it's easier just to go out and fully recruit. And so-
Sounded great, but.
Yeah,
I-
so,
yeah.
so for example, you know, like we have in ed tech, we have a custodian that's like half done college and needs a couple of courses to be an ed tech. So I've approved like an extra course that they can take so they can get certified. So that's as effective, if not more effective, than the complicated program we were running with CMCC.
Thank you.
Greg Mechanic, I can't remember, do we have one already and that's?
We had two, then one retired, and then we lost one, then we got one. So that's where we are. We need another mechanic.
Oh yeah, but we currently have one.
Oh yes, we have a
Okay, I just
mechanic and our
A new
new,
one. And our new guy can.
our new
Right.
guy is more than happy to open
Okay.
the hood if he has to.
you have a question, Fran?
The business manager interview, does that mean that we're to be there at 2 o'clock, or what does that mean?
So we're having an interview for a business manager on July 31. Is there a school board member that would like to participate?
How many, is it, do you just have the one candidate?
Just the one candidate, highly qualified candidate.
I'm out of town, I can't.
I should probably be able to do that.
Or Mr. Pascal, do you want to be there?
Oh, yeah, he has to be there. Here, I hired someone from there.
He what?
Yeah.
So if anyone's available for that, let's email Craig and then he can tap from that list who's most appropriate. To do that. Big, long list at the middle, or it feels like lengthy middle school list. Is this typical of just the ebb and flow of that, the age, or just coincidence, or should we be?
We had 2 retire, and we had 2 move on. Middle school ed tech, I would say, is a challenging job.
Say middle school is a challenge.
But I mean, if you take out all the ones that say found, filled, interviews in progress,
Right.
hire, I mean, that cuts 8 off
Yeah.
that list. So
It's all
it looks
text.
big, but when you, I just circled, underlined all the ones that are in progress, and it cuts that list down considerably.
It's just those 5 ed techs at the end.
So if you have a nephew or a niece, bachelor's degree,
I have one, but I don't want to do that.
and the other thing too is it's a launching pad. My first job was in Ed Tech 3. I finished my teaching certificate at the Christmas semester. I did it for a semester, then I got a real teaching job. So there's a lot of that. There's a lot of Ed Techs already have a teaching certificate and they're doing it for half a year or a year till they get a real teaching job. So that's part of the reason why there's a lot of
Movement.
revolving door.
Yeah, but then sometimes you get great people in that way, so it's worth it. Do you want to go through the hires, resignations?
Oh yeah, sorry. New hires, Renee Tufts, 3rd shift custodian, high school. Brooke Trafton, office support specialist, central office. Resignations, Janelle Gavitt, food service assistant, middle school. Samantha Thompson, Ed Tech 2, resource room, middle school. Bobby Lynn Fethler, food service assistant, middle school. Joseph Heathcote, math teacher, high school. Roger DeHetri, custodian, memorial. Ryan Porter, Ed Tech 2, FLS, functional life skills at the middle school. Paula Latique, English language, social studies, middle school. No transfers, no retirements. Jeanette Rourke, special ed Tech 1, high school. And I should also mention officially at the meeting that the recount was conducted 10 days ago, last Monday. Went very, 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 very smoothly. I had to find 12 people to be counters and counter leaders at the table, the counter tables. We had really good volunteers. who came in, and the clerks and town managers from both towns helped organize it. I was extremely impressed by the town clerks and the town managers and their assistants. You know, go in and vote. It sounds easy, but it's quite a project, and just want to thank those voter workers that volunteered their time, and the budget passed by 10 votes.
It's crazy to me.
Any questions for, Chair?
I was just wondering, with the recount, do we know what that cost?
Well, I had a Drummond lawyer was working for about 35 hours at $375 an hour. I don't know what the town paid. I don't know what New Gloucester paid. I don't know what.
I didn't know, did we have to pay for the
Will
town
we be
clerks to-
reimbursing the towns for their time, or do we not know if that is?
I don't know how that formula plays out. So there are rules on that. So we'll see. We've already had a discussion about that, so if they have to submit a bill, we'll know about it soon.
Is there any way we could get it, once it's all finalized, can we get an update on that? I'm just.
Sure.
It just seemed like a lot of people.
Yeah,
a lot
I
of
mean,
time.
it's, so the two town offices kind of dropped what they were doing for a long time to make this happen, and, because it is a big deal, and it's lots of rules and regulations and laws and security and safety, and yeah, we got the sheriff's deputy to volunteer his time to drop off the ballots, which pick up and drop off the ballots. That in and of itself sounds really simple, but there's like 27 rules associated with picking up and dropping off the ballots.
Now, the final cost would be interesting to know.
All right, wow, we really went for it tonight. I feel like sometimes these quick additional summer meetings end up being some of our longest, but we have very, very important work to do, and I appreciate everyone staying in the game. So we will be back together on August 7th, and
Is there no executive session?
oh, no,
Yeah,
there's
do we have
no, right, that,
Yeah,
no.
we have executive session.
Oh,
We do
okay.
not have to do that.
Okay.
So, I hear a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
And